Hey, y'all, it's Rick here on a Thursday afternoon. Glad that you are joining me here at Uncommon Communion. And today I want to offer a reflection on something that you might be wondering about, and that is the origin of the quote, the affirmation that I begin each of these reflections with. That quote, of course, is "Let us remember we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of God and each other." So, a little bit about my story, which I am writing, and you will see as a subscriber, you'll get some pieces of my story as I write it. Out of college, and I went to the University of San Francisco, which is a Jesuit college, also known as Ignatian, after St. Ignatius of Loyola, who founded the Jesuit order. Right after college, I was hired pretty surprisingly and quite remarkably to teach in Napa, California, which is about 90 minutes or so north of San Francisco. And I taught there at a unique Catholic high school. Now, what was unique about this Catholic high school was that it was a hyphenated school. And by that, I mean that it had originally been a girls' school and a boys' school. There was and two separate parts of the campus. In between the two, there was a common area, kind of a picnic area. There was a basketball court, kind of a shared area. And being founded, these two schools in the 1960s and then merging pretty early on in the mid 1970s, that common area was called the DMZ, demilitarized zone, Vietnam reference, right? So that was that common area. By the time I got to the school in 1992, which is when I graduated from college, it was already one school and it had a hyphen. It was Justin Siena, Justin hyphen Siena. That's Siena with one N. Now, Siena, you might be familiar with, some of you, that is after Catherine of Siena. And that was originally the girls' part of the campus. Justin was the name of the original brother who founded the school, and his name was Brother Justin, and he was a Lasallian brother. Now, I'll say more about them here in a second. Before that, though, just a quick thumbnail sketch of what religious orders are in the Catholic Church. So, when someone decides, a man, it's only men, sadly, at this point, I really have a problem with that, but that is what it is. Sadly, scandalously, I would say. When a man wants to become a priest, he has two basic options: to become a diocesan priest, which is linked to a geographic location. The bishop is his boss, and most likely his entire life he will spend in that geographical location. On the other hand, there are religious order priests and brothers and sisters. So this is men and women as well. And religious orders are typically founded by a holy person, a holy man or a holy woman. And they are almost always founded around a specific charism, right? Charism means spirit. It has to do with charisma, anointing, and so forth. And it's this gift, it's this spirit. Now, religious orders are Catholic. They do follow all of the rules and precepts of the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church. And yet they also have their own organization. They have their own community. They have their own charism, which again is a special gift that they bring to the church, to the gospel, to ministry, evangelism, and so forth. The Ignatian spirituality is one about education and about finding God in all things and discernment. The Franciscan spirituality, of course, is care for creation, love of the poor, and so forth. So I hope you get the idea. There's many of these religious orders. Some are very large and commonly known. Others are smaller. Others have not stood the test of time. So they were created and then they just went away. So this is all background to the fact that this school, just in Siena, was a Lasallian school. That was the boys' part originally. Now, again, it was co-ed by the time I got there, but that was the Justin part. And then the Siena part was Dominican. And St. Catherine of Siena was one of the great Dominican saints. St. Dominic, of course, is the founder of that order. Dominicans are interesting. The letters after their name are OP. So if you see someone who has OP after their name, that stands for Order of Preachers. And that is what Dominic did. He was an itinerant preacher. He traveled around the countryside. He was from Spain, and that's what he did. And actually predates Franciscans by quite a few decades. I believe Francis and Dominic were alive at the same time, but Dominic was old and Francis was a child at that point. So they never met. But those are really, in many ways, kind of the two most sort of established, two of the oldest religious orders. The Benedictines, of course, go even further back, St. Benedict and the monastics and so forth. But I digress. So for our purposes, there I am teaching at this Catholic school. I am just out of college. I am inexperienced, but enthusiastic. And that's an important thing because enthusiasm has to do with being filled with God's Spirit. And man, I was back then. And one of the things that really touched my spirit was the Lasallian charism. So a little bit about the Lasallians. So sometimes they are called Christian brothers. Now, that's not really the best name because there is at least one other order called the Christian Brothers. They're called the Irish Christian Brothers, and it's a different religious order altogether. So Lasallian brothers are the better way to refer to them. They were founded by Jean-Baptiste de La Salle. You will not be surprised to know he was French. He was born in 1651, died in 1719, so lived a fairly long life for the time period. And he was committed to education. That's really where he began. And he was educating boys who were poor, so not the most affluent. And in his time period, like many time periods, if you were affluent and education was expected and easy and so forth, but if you were not, it was impossible in many times and places. But he was committed to educating these young men, these boys, and committed to other things as well. And these are some of the things, some of the parts of the charism. Now, keep in mind, all of Catholicism, all of Christianity, ideally follows these same tenets, these same values, these same virtues. Jean-Baptiste and the Lasallian brothers, as they are best called today, are especially focused on these. And it would be quality education, social justice, inclusive community, respect for all, concern for the poor, and, wait for it, the one that it starts with and all of those flow from, recognizing the holy presence of God. So that quote comes from the way that Christian brothers, Lasallian brothers, begin their prayer. That's where I learned it. That's where I practiced it. And that's the place from which I carried it forward and continue to carry it forward to you all and to others. Now, why is it important? I think it is so important because God is always with us. Now, we are not always with God, right? Most of our days, we are not aware of the holy. We are not aware of the more. We are not aware of the big, deep, rich life that is around and within us and within everything, everyone, everywhere. We are so clueless most of the time. We are so distracted most of the time. We are so wrapped up in sin and selfishness and cruelty and chaos and all those things, that we don't recognize that we are always and everywhere in God's presence. God is always with us. And I love that quote, especially as we begin a time of mindfulness together, a time of prayer, a time of reflection, a time of being mindful, to say, yes, let us remember this. Now, always and everywhere, that everywhere is a piece that I've kind of added. That's a piece that sometimes Christian brothers, Lasallian brothers, will say, with each other was added by a very good teacher that I had, a very good person who I loved and who cared for me, my high school English teacher, J.R. Friss. And I very distinctly remember talking to him one time when I was teaching, and I only taught at this school for 4 years, 92 to 96. And my goal was, because I knew I needed to leave to go and get more education, I ended up going to Boston College, where I met my wife, and that's a whole nother story. I wanted to see what one class looked like all the way through. As a religion teacher, you typically teach multiple grade levels, have different preps, and I was fortunate enough to teach the same class, the class of 20, class of 1996, all the way through, some of them, all the way through their 4 years. And that was really quite remarkable. It is also quite remarkable to do the math and to realize that I was only 8 years older than those kids. So I'm 55, do the math. Those kids are not kids. Many of them have kids of their own. They are 47 years old. 47 years old, which just blows my mind, because many of the people that I encounter, many of my colleagues, many of the people that are peers in jobs and so forth, are younger than that, and it just kind of blows my mind. But that was that early piece of my story. That quote has carried me forward, and I hope it is meaningful to you. I hope perhaps you are incorporating that into your own prayer, your own spirituality, your own recognition that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of God and each other. That is not the only quote that the Lasallian brothers have. I want to close with a couple of them here. Let's make it 3, a trinity of quotes. So, Jean-Baptiste de La Salle, he said this: "Lift up your hands to heaven to draw down God's blessings on those you are guiding." I like that, a very physical gesture, hands to heaven to lift down blessings. "All the good that you are able to do in your work for those entrusted to you will be true and effective only insofar as Jesus Christ gives it his blessing as you remain united with him. Seek to learn from Jesus by frequently being in his company." And the last one here, on the importance of prayer. We'll end with this as our prayer. "In all we undertake for God's glory and the salvation of souls, we should begin by prayer to ask of God the light and grace necessary to secure success in this holy ministry. For we can achieve success only insofar as God helps us and the Holy Spirit directs us." Yeah. And I'll close with this one, actually one more, because this is a prayer for you. "I pray that God will open your eyes more and more so that you will realize on the one hand the depth of the abyss from which you have been saved, and on the other, the infinite love that has lifted you from it." And I think it's ironic, because we talk about the depth of the abyss. I think we get that wrong. I think we are not saved from death. We are saved from shallow and superficial and selfishness and self-centeredness. All of those things that blind us to what is there, which is the depth of everything. So we are saved from the shallow for the depth. And let us remember that. Again, a little bit longer today. I thank you for staying with me. I hope this has been edifying. I've enjoyed sharing this part of my story with you. blessing and good. Be gentle, be well.